The sunlit marble floors of the Carter mansion gleamed like mirrors as maids bustled about, their footsteps soft, rehearsed, silent. Everything in the house ran like clockwork, because that's how Emily Carter liked it. Billionaire, CEO, perfectionist. She wasn't just any woman. She was the one Fortune magazine once called the Iron Mind of Wall Street. But beyond the empire she built, her world revolved around one small, fragile thing. Her 7-year-old son, Leo. Leo was the kind of child who rarely made noise, always polite, always watching, quietly holding the world on his tiny shoulders, like he knew too much for his age. Emily noticed this, but never said it aloud. Maybe she was just projecting. Maybe being a single mother made her imagine things in Leo that didn't exist. Or maybe Leo had inherited her ability to keep emotions locked up like glass behind museum glass, seen but untouched. The previous nanny had quit unexpectedly, citing personal reasons. Through her eyes looked more tired than her voice sounded. Emily didn't question her. The next morning, her assistant had already lined up 3 new candidates, but none stood out like Grace. Grace was different, early 30s, soft-spoken. Her references were glowing, though there was a 4-month gap in her resume she couldn't explain. She spoke to Leo with the kind of gentle voice that didn't need to rise to be heard. On the first day, she taught Leo how to fold origami. By the second, he was showing her his Lego worlds like he'd known her forever. The way Grace listened, really listened, made Emily pause. For once, Leo looked comfortable. Even though everything seemed perfect, Emily wasn't the kind of woman to leave things to chance. Quietly, she had her tech team install hidden cameras in the key areas of the house. Playroom, hallway, kitchen. Not because she didn't trust Grace, but because trust, in her world, was earned in layers. Leo's safety wasn't something she'd gamble on. The days passed easily, too easily. Every morning, Emily left at 6:30 a.m. sharp, with a coffee in one hand and 3 phones buzzing in the other. She would glance at Leo eating breakfast and whisper, "Make today magical, little man," before heading to her armored SUV. Grace took over after that. Meals, online classes, park walks. Everything ran with a smooth rhythm. But still, something felt off, not big enough to name, just a flicker in the corners of the day. Maureen, the longtime cook, muttered one afternoon, "Leo's been flinching lately. You notice?" Carlos, the gardener, nodded slowly. "Doesn't run around like before. Just sits a lot." Emily brushed it off. Kids changed. School could be overwhelming. Maybe Leo was just growing quieter. Maybe his mind was expanding, and his mouth was slowing down to let it all settle in. That's what she told herself. But one evening, as she walked past Leo's room, she heard him whispering to himself. Low, hesitant, like he was coaching his own bravery. "Mommy says I'm strong. I'm strong. It's not my fault." Emily froze. She gently opened the door. Leo had already fallen asleep, hugging a tiny blue stuffed bear, one she hadn't seen before. Where did he get it? She picked it up, turned it in her hands, stitched initials in the corner. A G. Not Grace's last name, someone else's. Why would she give him a bear with another child's initials? She tucked the bear beside Leo and stepped out quietly. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe it was something. Her mind, trained in the language of contracts and codes, didn't believe in loose ends. That night, before going to bed, she poured herself a glass of wine and opened the security feed on her laptop. The footage played in fast forward. Kitchen scenes, Grace preparing meals, Leo following her like a shadow. A soft routine playing over and over. Nothing stood out. Just a boy and his nanny. Until a tiny gut-deep discomfort began to form in her chest. She paused the video, rewound slightly, watched again, slower this time. Grace's smile, so genuine, flickered at times into something harder, less kind. Leo didn't always smile back. Sometimes he just nodded. Sometimes he looked down. Emily rubbed her temples. She hated overthinking. But with Leo, she had to be sure. Tomorrow she'd review more footage, maybe talk to Leo. Maybe nothing was wrong. But that night, as she lay in bed, glass empty, laptop closed, and silence hanging heavy in the dark, Emily Carter, billionaire iron-willed strategist, Felt something she hadn't felt in a long, long time. Fear. For the first time, she wondered, what if perfection was only hiding something she hadn't dared to see? Emily sat at her desk the next afternoon, staring blankly at a quarterly report, while numbers danced meaninglessly across the screen. Her mind wasn't in the boardroom or in the billion-dollar deal pending overseas. It was stuck in those flickers from last night's footage, Grace's changing expressions, Leo's quiet compliance, the strange whisper she overheard. She closed the report and pulled up the security app again. Just one more look, she whispered, as if needing to convince herself it was for closure. This time, she watched the feed from earlier that same afternoon. Leo had finished his lunch and was sitting on the playroom rug, assembling a wooden puzzle. Grace entered, carrying a plate with sliced apples and a napkin. She said something softly, but Leo didn't respond. The footage had no sound, but Emily didn't need audio. She could see it. Grace's mouth tightened, her shoulders stiffened. She leaned down, spoke again, more firmly this time. Leo still didn't react. That's when it happened. In a sudden motion, Grace reached forward, grabbed Leo's wrist, yanked him up, and slapped him. Not hard enough to knock him down, but hard enough to make him freeze. Emily's heart stopped. The slap wasn't loud, but Leo's reaction spoke volumes. He didn't scream. He didn't cry out loud. He just stood there, shaking, a single tear sliding down his cheek. He looked straight ahead, like he had rehearsed this moment before. Emily covered her mouth. Her body went cold. For a long moment, she couldn't move. She wanted to run downstairs, storm into the room, grab Leo into her arms and scream. But something held her back, something stronger than rage, control. That deep, burning instinct she'd built her whole life around. Never react without calculation. With trembling fingers, she paused the video and reached for the intercom. "All the household staff, meet me in the living room. Now." Her voice was calm, too calm. Within minutes, the living room, tall ceilings, white stone fireplace, and floor-to-ceiling windows, was filled with quiet tension. Maureen wiped her hands on her apron. Carlos leaned awkwardly near the glass door. The driver, the housemaid, even the pool guy, all were there. And at the center, standing near the fireplace, was Grace, smiling faintly, as if she'd just won Employee of the Month. Leo was upstairs, under the care of Emily's assistant, who had been told nothing. Only that Leo needed company and not to be disturbed. Grace looked up as Emily walked in, slow and deliberate, like entering a courtroom. "Something wrong, Miss Carter?" Grace asked, her tone polite, rehearsed. Emily smiled tightly. "I just thought we could all use a little transparency today." Everyone's eyes shifted. Some looked nervous. Others were curious. A few whispered among themselves. Emily didn't raise her voice. She didn't accuse her. She simply picked up the remote and turned on the giant flat screen mounted above the fireplace. The footage began to play. At first, no one understood what they were watching. Just a boy on a rug. Then the moment came. The grabbing, the slap, the silence. Gasps filled the room. Someone whispered, "Oh my God." Grace turned pale. Her lips parted, but no words came. Her hands trembled. Emily finally turned to her. "Do you deny this?" Grace opened her mouth, then closed it again. She swallowed hard. I didn't mean to. He wasn't listening. He was ignoring me for days. Emily held up a hand. "Stop." Everyone in the room froze. Emily's eyes were sharp, unreadable. "You'll get your chance to explain, but not to me. To him. Later." Grace looked like she was about to collapse. Emily turned to the staff. "Thank you all. That's all for now. Please give us the room." The staff quietly dispersed, casting long glances over their shoulders as they walked out. Grace remained there, her shoulders hunched, breathing heavily. Emily waited until the last person left. The door clicked shut behind them. The room was silent. "I trusted you," Emily said softly. "I didn't mean it," Grace whispered, barely audible. "I swear to you I didn't. I wasn't myself." Emily narrowed her eyes. "Then who were you?" Grace's lips quivered, and then she broke. Just like that. Tears rushed down her face. She fell to her knees on the carpet, choking on sobs. "I lost my son. she choked out. 4 months ago, he was 7, just like Leo, same age as Leo. I buried him and came back to work because I couldn't afford not to. I didn't take time off. I didn't grieve. I thought if I could just help another child, maybe the pain would go away. Emily's breath caught in her throat. Grace looked up at her, broken, pleading. I didn't mean to hurt him. I swear, I saw my own boy in him. But sometimes I forget where I am. Sometimes it just explodes inside me. Emily stood frozen. The room suddenly felt colder, bigger, emptier. She didn't know what hurt more, the betrayal or the reason behind it. No one in that room expected what came next. Emily stepped forward and in a voice barely above a whisper said, "Tell me everything." Emily stood still, hands by her sides, staring down at Grace, who knelt on the soft Persian rug, still trembling. The silence wasn't cold. It was thick, like a storm that refused to break. Grace wiped her face with the edge of her sleeve, her voice barely a whisper. His name was Nathan. He had asthma. We were at a park. He ran too far. He collapsed, and I didn't... She paused, her breath catching. I didn't have the inhaler. Emily sat down on the nearest armchair, slowly, quietly. She rested her elbows on her knees, her eyes locked on Grace. I haven't said his name aloud in 3 months, Grace added, staring into nothing. Not once. I thought keeping it in would make it less real. The confession lingered in the air. Emily, for the first time in a long time, didn't know what to feel. As a mother, she ached. As a woman who built empires with cold logic, she struggled. And as Leo's mother, she was furious. You used my son, Emily said quietly, not accusing, just honest. You turned him into a replacement. Grace nodded, shame pouring from her like floodwater. I didn't mean to, she whispered. At first, he reminded me of Nathan, the way he organizes his toys, how he reads the same book every night. I just wanted to care for him, but sometimes, when he ignored me or made a face Nathan used to make, I'd just snap, and then regret it. Every time. Emily's hands tightened into fists. How long has this been happening? Grace swallowed hard. 3 times, maybe 4, never more than a slap, never anything worse. Emily closed her eyes. She saw Leo's face, his quiet smile, the way he hugged her at bedtime but didn't say much about his day anymore. She thought it was just growing up. She had missed the signs. You should have told me you weren't ready to work, Emily said. I couldn't, Grace replied. I needed the money. I'm still paying off the funeral costs. My landlord gave me 2 extensions. I was desperate. Emily sat back, watching the woman across from her. At that moment, she didn't see the nanny anymore. She saw a mother, a grieving one, drowning, alone. And suddenly, Leo's voice echoed in her mind, something he'd said a week ago, almost casually. Grace cried when I showed her my old baby photos. I think they made her sad. Emily hadn't thought much of it at the time. She thought maybe Grace was just emotional. She never imagined it was grief. Why didn't you ask for help? Emily asked gently. Because people like me don't get to ask, Grace said bitterly. We just keep going. We clean, we serve, we smile, and we keep going. Emily leaned forward. That doesn't justify hurting a child. Grace's face crumbled again. I know it doesn't. That's why I won't ask you to forgive me, but please, help me. I'll leave. I won't fight it. Just don't let me disappear like this, not without trying to fix myself. Silence again. Emily stood, walked to the window. Outside, the sky had turned gray. The first drops of rain kissed the glass, slow and soft. She turned back to Grace. You'll leave today, but not with nothing. Grace looked up, confused. I'm not pressing charges, Emily said, but I am doing something else. Grace blinked. What? I'm enrolling you in a grief therapy program, private, intensive, paid in full. I'll also cover your rent for the next 3 months. Grace shook her head, overwhelmed. Why would you do that? Emily exhaled deeply. Because I want my son to know that helping someone is not the same as excusing them. And because if Leo can survive this without hate in his heart, Then maybe we both need to learn from him. Just then, a soft knock came at the door. Leo peeked in, his small face curious. "Mom?" Emily opened her arms, and he ran to her. She lifted him onto her lap and looked him in the eyes. "Leo, baby, do you remember what happened today with Grace?" He nodded slowly. "She's going away for a while," Emily said, "because she made a mistake, a very serious one. But she's hurting too, and we're going to help her get better." Leo looked at Grace. His lip trembled, but then, softly, he said, "She cried in the bathroom last night. I heard her." Grace's tears returned, quiet and full of shame. Leo looked at Emily. "She needs help, Mommy, not just punishment." Emily kissed his forehead. The decision wasn't just hers anymore. Grace packed silently. No goodbye, no apology. Just a slow walk down the marble steps with her suitcase and lowered eyes. Emily stood by the door, arms folded, not angry, just holding herself together. Leo clung to her side, watching Grace with quiet sadness. Not fear or hate, just the understanding only a child could carry. When the door closed, silence filled the house. That evening, Emily sat on the floor of her home office. Leo's old drawings were scattered around her. One stood out, a stick-figure boy between two adults with a son and big smiles. At the bottom, it said, "Me and Mommy and my nanny." She stared at it, feeling the weight of everything, betrayal, grief, and the painful truth that doing the right thing isn't always clear. She picked up her phone and dialed a number from Grace's file, a therapist Grace once called but couldn't afford. When the call connected, Emily spoke firmly. "I want to pay for full trauma therapy. Her name is Grace Layton. No limits. If she misses even one session, call me directly." She hung up, stared at the ceiling, and whispered, "Please don't let me be wrong about this." The next morning, over breakfast, Emily addressed the staff. Cleaners, chefs, drivers, tutors. They braced for anger. But instead, Emily stood beside Leo, her hand on his shoulder, and said, "What happened with Grace was painful, but we've chosen compassion, not revenge. That's the lesson here." Some nodded. A few looked down. No one spoke, but quiet respect filled the room. Later, in the garden after the rain, Leo picked up a flower blown over by the wind. He gently replanted it. "Do you think she'll be okay?" he asked. Emily looked at the sky. "I don't know, but we gave her a chance. That's more than most people get." Leo nodded. "She was like that flower. She just needed someone to pick her up." Emily smiled and hugged him. "You're wise," he shrugged. "You say that every time I eat my broccoli." She laughed, but deep down, something had shifted in her. Later that week, Emily spoke to a journalist. Not about business, but about something personal, mental health and caregivers. She shared Grace and Leo's story carefully, without names, but with a powerful message. She spoke of overworked nannies, single mothers, and grief, how society expects them to stay strong without help. Her words went viral. Support groups formed. Therapists offered discounts. People started listening. Emily didn't want to be a hero. She just didn't want others to miss the signs she almost ignored. That weekend, a package arrived. No return label. Inside was a handwritten note. "Thank you for seeing the broken in me, even when I couldn't see it myself. I'm still healing, but I'm getting better. One day, I'll give back the kindness you showed me. Grace." Below the note was a small blue bear with crooked arms, the same one Leo had lost on a school trip. He hugged it that night. Emily, watching from the hallway, felt something change inside her, because healing doesn't always start with an apology. Sometimes it starts with being seen. Months passed. The mansion returned to routine, but it felt softer, more human. Leo had changed. He read more, asked thoughtful questions, and noticed things adults missed. One day, while watching their new nanny Clara play chess, he said, "She laughs like Grace." "Do you miss her?" Emily asked. "Sometimes," he said, "but not in a sad way. I just hope she's okay." "She is," Emily said softly. Without telling anyone, Emily had been funding Grace's therapy. Monthly updates came, progressing well, emotionally more stable. Then one spring morning, a small envelope arrived. Inside was a hand-drawn book, The Boy with the Brave Heart. It was dedicated to the boy who helped me heal, and to all the little ones who teach us how to love again. Grace Layton. Emily read it in one sitting. It told their story, a broken woman, a kind boy, a mother who saw the truth, a home that learned compassion. When she gave it to Leo, he said, "Mommy, this is me." "Yes, baby," she whispered. "That's you." He smiled. "Then I helped her." "You did." Emily quietly shared the book with a publisher she knew. Within months, it became a hit, used in schools, praised for its gentle handling of grief. Grace got offers to write more and speak about healing. She never returned to the mansion. She didn't need to. Her impact remained. Inspired, Emily started a nonprofit for caregiver support. In interviews, she never named Grace, just shared what Leo taught her. Sometimes, the strongest thing you can do is forgive. The mansion, once cold and perfect, became a place of warmth and second chances. At night, Emily would walk barefoot through the halls, pausing by Leo's door. She'd hear his soft snores, maybe Clara's lullaby. And sometimes she'd see that little blue bear, arms still crooked, like them, imperfect, but loved, still healing, still standing. If this story touched your heart, take a moment to let it sink in. Sometimes, the most powerful lessons come from the quietest voices, like a child's forgiveness or a broken woman's truth. This wasn't just a story about a slap or a reaction. It was about healing, understanding, and the kind of strength that doesn't always shout, but shows up with compassion. Would you have reacted the same way as Emily did? Let us know in the comments below. And if Leo's kindness moved you like it moved us, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more emotional stories.